program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9 FM.
Welcome everybody. Appreciate you all coming out for tonight's Plan Commission meeting. Tonight's November 19th, 2018. This meeting is being broadcast live by Valley MediaWorks on Charter Channel 994 on 101.9 FM and online at valleymediaworks.org. The Plan Commission attempts to conduct its public hearings in a relatively informal manner within the constraints that we must deal with the issues before us in an orderly and business-like fashion. We give the applicant the opportunity to speak first, and then others, either for or against the proposal, are each permitted to speak once. We do request that everyone restrict their comments to the issues before us, avoid unnecessary repetition, and be prudent with use of time, please. We want to be sure that we provide adequate time to review and discuss all items in equal diligence. A couple points, reminder, please turn cell phones off or silent. If you're looking to speak tonight or you plan to speak tonight, please fill out yellow forms on the back of the room and put them on the front counter for Ryan to collect. If you do speak tonight, please introduce yourself with your name and address. And with that, we will get to item 1 tonight, which is public hearing for recommendation of council of a rezone from R1 to R3. Ryan?
Thank you. Good evening. Before you is a request to rezone property at 2857 Western Avenue, currently located on the northeast side of town. The parcel has 2 different zoning categories at this time, R1 and R3. The current parcel does have existing daycare, former daycare facility on the site. It has been vacant for some time. The comprehensive plan designates this area as being appropriate for medium to high density residential. This proposed R3 zoning would meet that requirement, and the change potentially would be to multifamily residential. A final site plan will be reviewed by the Plan Commission at a later date. Staff believes that this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the compatible land uses surrounding. If you remember 2 years ago, there's 4 units here. One was under construction, as you can see. There'll be another one right here. You can see the foundations in, and potentially a 4th one right here. So that would be consistent with the surrounding zoning and land uses. With that, staff would recommend approval of the request. I believe the applicant is not here. He's out of the state. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Before we get started, I believe we're having trouble with the commissioner microphones again tonight, so please speak up. But any questions for Ryan? Yeah, Terry. Let me get a chair here.
I think it's been a couple, maybe it was 2 years ago, maybe it was longer than that, but wasn't it proposing about bringing a road back, again, the south side of the lot now, we're talking about rezoning, be a driveway there, back to a cul-de-sac, and there's going to be several buildings back there, wasn't there?
That was the original proposal. Richard Goley and Goley Properties amended their plan. They were just going to do one driveway to service 1 4-unit on this lot right here. Unfortunately, at that time, the property owner of this parcel did not want to sell it to him. I believe that it has been sold, but it's been sold to an investment group out of Baldwin, Wisconsin, and that is the applicant tonight.
So access to that, if they were to do a fourplex on the back side of that, it would come along that strip along the south side?
That is correct.
Any other questions for Ryan? Yes, Terry.
How much the parcel immediately to the east of the way in the back, what access do they have? Is that under the same ownership?
That is under the Goldie Properties, and that I believe that's just going to stay green space at this time.
Any other questions? All right. I guess. No? Okay. And Ryan, you said the applicant is not here?
I don't believe so.
I guess maybe we'll just see if there's anybody here from the public that would like to discuss this item. Now is your opportunity. One more, anybody here to talk on the Bauer Estates LLC application on Western Avenue? All right, I'm not seeing anybody, I guess that means we're looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve this. That's up and down.
Okay.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not seeing, let's call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Approved, good deal. All right, item number 2, public hearing, final action, conditional use permit for a bed and breakfast on Washington Street, 221 Washington Street.
Thank you. Before you is a request for a conditional use permit to allow for a bed and breakfast consisting of 2 two-bedroom units and 1 one-bedroom unit located at 221 Washington Street, just south of downtown in Eau Claire. The current parcel is zoned R3. The applicant, again, is requesting to approve a conditional use permit for a bed and breakfast similar to the request of 819 3rd Avenue a couple months ago. It is the same applicant. The applicant focuses the B&B on students, parents, professionals, traveling nurses working in Eau Claire area. I believe the current structure is used as a 3-unit and is currently occupied as a 3-unit. The standards are for review in your ordinance, or in the ordinance that are in your packet. For this request, it is a historic property with unique characteristics and historic value to the community. No additions to the structure are proposed, and the appearance of the dwelling unit will stay as maintained. There are parking stalls behind the structure with a shared driveway to the east. There's 5 current parking stalls and a 2-car garage. The Plan Commission should consider the provisions of the 4 conditional use permit, which are also attached in your packet. If the Plan Commission finds it consistent with the provisions as code, the Plan Commission should approve this request. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
One question, Ryan. So is this something that Landmarks needs to review, or the fact that it's not getting changed doesn't require that?
The appearance is not changing of the structure. If it was, then the Landmarks Commission would review this, and that would have been prior to this meeting. But since the change is just for a bed and breakfast.
Okay, great. Any additional questions for Ryan? I'm not seeing any. Thanks. Is the applicant here? No, gentlemen. Good evening.
Yeah. Can you focus that a little bit more?
It should autofocus.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, good evening. Ed Garlick, EDJ Rentals and Genuine Properties. We own a lot of rental property in Eau Claire. We also own a bed and breakfast at 819 3rd Avenue. As you can tell by the photo, this is a historical house. We think it has some pretty nice potential as a bed and breakfast. It's currently occupied, so it's not something that we do immediately, but we're planning for the future a little bit. So we're under getting this approved. This house is called the Baron Kraus Warden House. Mr. Barron, the gentleman who built the house, was the original member of the first city council in Eau Claire. He was a up and going businessman, and this house was built in 1871. Been there a while. In very good shape. Has a lot of eye appeal. Worked very well in the bed and breakfast, bring people into our downtown to be entertained. The one we have at 819 3rd Avenue that you guys approved a few months ago is doing very well. We've had a lot of 5-star stays there, and they've complimented us on how close we are to the Lazy Monk in the downtown West Grand Avenue Business District and the Brewery District, the wonderful bridges we have to our downtown, so it's worked pretty well, so we're going to try something new here. Anybody have any questions?
Questions? Mr. Granlund?
What's been the sort of average length of stay? I mean, that's the biggest difference, I think, between having it just be a rental and being a bed and breakfast. What's the kind of
Right.
typical? Is it
Obviously, weekends are probably the most popular, there's no question. We are getting some weekday night stays at the one at 819 3rd Avenue. Nothing real popular during the week, but weekends for sure. So 2 to 3 nights.
sure?
Mr. Greger?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Garlick,
Yes.
I know you have a plan for, I guess, over a period of years, maybe transitioning this to a bed and breakfast, because I know you have some other tenants there, I
Right.
understand. So I guess are you planning potentially to have some long-term tenants at the same time as having some
Correct.
more short-term?
Probably only one of the units would be used as a bed and breakfast, the downstairs unit, which has, not shown in here, but this really has a very nice backyard, courtyard at this place too. And so there's a little appeal for that in the summer too, for a bed and breakfast. But yes, not all 3 units will probably be a bed and breakfast at this time, for sure. And there's a current tenant in the downstairs that has been a long-term tenant, and we have no plans to not have those live there right at the moment, so.
Thank you.
Great. Any additional questions? I'm not seeing any. Thanks a lot for coming up.
Yep, thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing, so if there is anybody that would like to comment on this item, now is your opportunity. Anybody here that'd like to discuss this item? Now's your chance. I'm not seeing anybody, so we'll be looking for a motion. Yes, Mr. Seymour.
Approval of this project?
Okay, got a motion? Craig?
Second.
And a second. Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Greger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do feel that it is a good fit for the neighborhood. I live in the neighborhood there, and I also was at the Third Ward Neighborhood Association steering committee meeting on Wednesday of last week, very soon after this was revealed in our packet, and the Neighborhood Association Steering Committee showed their support for it unanimously. So just as an extra piece of information for folks. So I think that helps me support it as well. So.
Yeah, thanks for adding that. Appreciate it. I lived on that block a few years back, and it's a neat neighborhood, but I like the way that house kind of comes towards downtown, and it's this kind of house, so hopefully it's a big success. Any additional comments? I'm not seeing any. Let's call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. Good luck, gentlemen. Okay, that takes us to item number 3, public hearing, final action for conditional use permit and a master sign amendment for the Pablo Center. Mr. Ivory.
Good evening. Visit Eau Claire is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a projecting sign at the Pablo Center. The sign would be along Graham Avenue, located just to the north of Gibson Street. On the map here, it's shown as item number 3. The map here shows the location of the Pablo Center with Graham Avenue located to the east, Gibson located to the south, and then along the Chippewa River and the Eau Claire River. And then here's an aerial of the building showing the river, Graham Avenue and Gibson. And then this is a photo taken looking towards the northwest at the building at the intersection of Gibson and Graham Avenue. The sign itself would be located right about in this location right here on the building. And then this is taken just a little bit further back, showing the section of the building along Graham Avenue. Again, the sign itself would be located right at this location right here. The Visit Eau Claire is proposing a sign that would periodically change in color at an interval of not less than 2 minutes. This is a picture of a rendering of what the sign would look like. The installation of the sign also requires the amendment of the master sign plan for the building. The Plan Commission approved the conditional use permit and the master sign plan for the building back in July of this year. The approval of that involved the installation of 4 wall signs, if you recall, each of those having the words Pablo. One would be on each side of the building. And then also part of that conditional use is those signs would change in brightness and color over time. Also, there was a proposal for an electronic message center. Electronic message center was to be placed along Graham Avenue, a little bit further towards the north end of the building. And then also part of the conditional use was that the building itself, that building illumination, would change in brightness and color over time. At that time, the applicant indicated that the change in color for the signs in the building would coincide with the lighting changes that would be going on with the Phoenix Park Bridge. To date, we have not actually had sign permits submitted for those 4 Pablo signs or for the message center sign. We still anticipate that'll happen sometime soon, but we have not really heard any specific information on that. So to date, those signs have not been installed. The proposed sign would be 36 inches in diameter, and based on my high school math, that works out to about 7 square feet in size. As shown on the drawing here, it includes an eye, which is a symbol that's being used for kind of on a national basis for visitor information. And then it also includes the words Visit Eau Claire and then Experience Center, and the applicants can kind of describe that a little bit more. The proposed sign during the day would be the one color as you've seen here, and then from dusk to dawn would rotate between colors. And here's some examples of what's shown here. And you might want to ask the applicant in their narrative, they indicate the possible color palette of 17 colors that potentially could be used. They're just showing 3 here. The section of the code relating to review is included in your packet and states that only within the downtown sign district the Plan Commission can approve a conditional use permit for sign illumination that either varies in color or varies in time. So it's unique to the downtown sign district. The review criteria states that the Plan Commission find that the proposed sign would be consistent with the architecture, scale, and design of the building. So in other words, it's compatible with the building based on its size and architecture. And it also is compatible in appearance with neighboring buildings, neighboring signs, and the actual street character in terms of where it's located. As noted in the staff report, the conditional use permit that was approved back in July was the first such request to vary the sign illumination or building illumination within the downtown area. The approval of that request established somewhat of a precedence for allowing signs to change illumination for an entertainment-related facility, and with a building of this scale as the Pablo Center. This request differs a little bit slightly from the July request that it relates to a tenant within the building as per se. If the Plan Commission wishes to approve the conditional use, staff recommends that the Commission make a finding that the proposed sign would be compatible with the changing signs and the building illumination that was already approved by the Plan Commission. Also that the proposed sign is compatible with the scale and design of this specific building. And then finally that it will not adversely affect neighboring buildings or neighboring signs. So with that, if you have any questions.
Thanks. Any questions? Mr. Greger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Library, I was wondering if the city or maybe country has some sort of standard for these types of signs in terms of fonts or colors. It seems like in general I see a cursive lowercase I that's in blue when I see these types of signs around the country, but maybe there really is no standard or best practice with that, but I'm not sure if that was discussed with the applicant at all.
This is really what's being proposed by the applicant. From the city perspective, in terms of our sign ordinance, we have to be somewhat careful in terms of looking at or regulating the actual content of the signs based on previous court cases. So, but being this is a conditional use permit being reviewed by the Plan Commission, I guess you can ask the applicant that in terms of kind of the reasoning for what they have there.
Mr. Granlund?
There wasn't any document that included a scale reference size onto the building front or side?
No,
Go back to that slide and just kind of...
Yeah, as I mentioned, the location of the...
Doors are roughly 3 feet wide, so...
Yeah, it would be right...
Kind of,
Yeah, as I mentioned, it would be right here. Being that the sign itself is 3 feet in diameter, and you'd figure probably another 6 inches for the bracket, so it's going to extend out from the wall of the building about 3.5 feet. This from the bottom of the canopy here down to the window, I'm just guessing that's probably going to be a little bit less than 3 feet. So it's located, and the sign itself is, according to the application, is going to be about 10.5 feet above the grade of the sidewalk. So it'll be, well, about that size. Just, I think, slightly larger than that distance right here. Again, maybe the applicant can provide a little more information, but this is what we were provided with. I can go back to that is here, and again, that's kind of difficult to show scale based on that.
Great. John figured that it's about 8 to 10 foot sidewalk there. Other scale reference. Any additional questions for Pat?
All right,
Thanks a lot. Is the applicant here?
Yeah.
You want to come up?
My name is Diane Hughes, and I'm the brand new Director of Operations for Visit Eau Claire. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this. We do have Kelly Schwak, who is our Director of Administration, who worked on the conditional permit and is going to be in a much better position to answer questions. I can tell you that the diameter is indicated to be 36 inches, and the bottom would be 10.5 from grade. It was in our paperwork. I think the other thing, which was already mentioned, is that the internal lighting fade to multiple colors every 2 minutes, and the 17 colors, up to 17 colors, was also part of the plan. I know when I was just meeting earlier today on this, I do know that of significance, at least what it felt like to me, is that the Confluence Council on November 8th approved the plan, as did the Eau Claire Confluence Arts Board, also approved it on November 15th. As well as the staff recommending it. So those are the big picture items. I think Kelly could probably answer any specific questions that you have about the permit itself. So if you have any for her.
Any questions for the applicant? Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Hughes, I guess I was wondering what your process was for deciding the design. I do understand that I typically see them in a circular shape like that, which makes sense to me, but as far as colors and the font that you used, or whether you decided to italicize that, how did
My guess on that, when I say it's an educated guess, but I think it's a pretty good one, in that we worked with a company that worked through our whole rebranding of Visit Eau Claire, and these are all part of our color. It's on everything that you're going to see, and so that is certainly part of that. It was quite an extensive effort leading up to our move from our Jeffers Road office into the Pablo Center. So a lot of discussions, a lot of effort has been put into that whole effort. So I think that's where it came from. That, and in just as I think was already mentioned by Mr. Ivory, that in general visitor information centers have the eye is a kind of a symbol that is universally recognized for people visiting communities. Welcome.
Any additional questions? All right, I'm not seeing any. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a public hearing, so if there's anybody here that'd like to discuss the item? Not see anybody else in the audience. So I guess we'd be looking for a motion. Mr. Cranley.
I'll move approval of the conditional permit.
Okay. And then are we also tackling the sign plan amendment as well? Is two items, right?
Yes.
So both of those, right? Okay. We got a motion
Second.
and a second. Great. Any discussion? Okay, let's call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, good deal. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, item number 4, site plan approval, 3170 North Claremont Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you is a request for a site plan for an Arby's restaurant located at 3170 North Claremont Avenue. The parcel is just north of the new Taco Bell that was built last year and east of the Menards West location. In your packet is the drawings for the proposed restaurant at 2,713 square feet, 64 seats inside with a drive-through restaurant or drive-through window. The required parking is based on the number of seats and the square footage of the building, which is 28. On the proposed site plan is 35 stalls. The landscape plan is in your packet and doesn't show up on the screen very well, but that is a typical landscape plan with a mixture of foundation plantings and street trees. We are asking the applicant to provide a landscape plan for this location and potentially add street trees along Mercantile Drive. There is a 3-stall U-shaped bicycle rack shown on the site plan, a pedestrian link from the building to the sidewalk along Mercantile Drive. Also, the lighting plan is in your packet and building elevations. Similar elevation to the Taco Bell. It is a part masonry facade with pre-manufactured metal. The building elevation does show 3 different signs that would be required by a sign permit. In your packet is the grading and drainage for the site, the public utilities. Traffic is noted for a drive-through restaurant. Also, transit is located 1 block away. With that, staff does have a couple conditions that need to be added. Approval of review and approval of the grading and drainage, and a landscape plan showing it for this site. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks. Any questions for Jeremy? I'm sorry, for Ryan? Sorry, Ryan. Jeremy? No, not seeing any. All right. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, it took me a minute to think it up.
Please.
There's no need to consider the Claremont as another front as far as street trees go. I was just trying to review I could tell where the shadow lines were, but it doesn't look like we have required that any plantings be placed along the Claremont side on previous projects either.
Correct. In this location, there is a significant elevation change. The Claremont Avenue is significantly higher than the site, and previously we have not required that for the Taco Bell and the Holiday and then the bank on that corner. So typically we do not require that.
Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Petrie, is this going to complete the entirety of the sidewalk on Mercantile then? Because it seems to be the only gap in the sidewalk.
I would defer that to our city engineer, John Jensko.
I don't know if I have a mic here or not, but they'll have to put the sidewalk in front of their parcel. There's a little gap where the parcel to the south didn't go quite all the way to their property line. That will have to be filled in. I think there's still a bit of a vacant parcel between this and where the old water feature used to be. And so that sidewalk wouldn't go in until that project is developed or the council were to come back and order that to be infilled.
I think that sidewalk's actually by the pond.
It is by the pond, but I don't believe this parcel takes the whole parcel covered in yellow there, or does it?
Oh, is there a small gap between the two?
I'm pretty sure it does, but the applicant may know that.
If it covers the whole yellow lot up there, then the sidewalk will be completed with this. If it doesn't, then the remnant would still not have a sidewalk at this time.
Terry, go ahead.
If you look at your hand copy, it looks like the sidewalk goes all the way to the north property line of Arby's, but there is that gap on the north side of Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Sure. Another one, Chris?
I have a little bit of a follow-up to that. This property is about
mid-block on a really long block, I guess, depending on how you count a block in this area. But and then there's obviously, folks, who are going to Menards across the way. So I guess it probably doesn't relate to this particular project, but it's something to keep in mind in the future is some sort of mid-block crossing in a way to, because I think we could see some demand between people crossing the street since it's such a long stretch, and that might be a good place to think about where to put a crosswalk, or maybe even find a way to do it as part of this project and have the city involved in that end. So just something to really thought I'd mention.
Jeremy, you're thinking from the restaurants over to Menards or the other way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Since it's about halfway across.
I want to interject here. Since we're talking about transit, I've always been amazed that there's no bus route in this area. It ends at that festival across the street. We got the whole industrial park up there and Menards corporate.
There is.
Interesting, I think, but that's a sidebar. Sorry. I'm sorry. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, Jeremy.
So there is actually a bus that does go across to Menards, but it's runs once an hour, and then there's another one that just goes to the festival too.
Just festival. Yeah. All right. Sorry. Any additional questions? All right. I'm not seeing it. Thanks a lot. The applicant here. Come on up.
Members of the commission and staff, thank you. My name is Eric Leitz. I'm the president and principal engineer of Oak Ridge Engineering up in Chippewa Falls. I'm here on behalf of DRM, which is doing business as Arby's. They're the corporate entity behind Arby's. And we've been working on this project, and the two items that Ryan had mentioned as far as items that need to be considered yet is we did just get a generic landscape plan, a typical one for the Arby's projects, but they said they're working on it. We just didn't get it at this time, but it's very representative as to what you would see here. And then my engineer that worked on this, he went on vacation and didn't submit his stormwater calculations yet. So we knew that we had to get that to the staff for review prior to this, but I guess I didn't get my whip out enough to get it done before he went on vacation. As far as the one question that came up for the sidewalk, if you look on the picture there, I don't think that southern part is actually the pond. I think that was the access to get to the pond to fill it. But if you look, and I believe you have a full set of plans in front of you in our submittal, on plan sheet 6 of 8, we do show a sidewalk the entire length of Mercantile Drive on the west side there. We have the detectable warning fields for crossing the driveway. And then on the very north side, our survey did pick up an existing sidewalk, and we show that our sidewalk goes right up to that north property line. There you go. Do you have a pointer? Thank you. So we have the sidewalk right here, all the way up, and then it continues to the north property edge, and then right here we show an existing sidewalk in front of that pond area. So I think that was the one question so far. Do you have any other questions that I could answer?
Any questions for the applicant? Not seeing any. Oh, sorry, Craig.
Yeah, any other concerns with the staff recommendations and the letter that they have drafted?
No, actually, I had one clerical issue. Our address was wrong, and I corrected that. But otherwise, everything looks good. I mean, we've been talking to the staff and kind of knew where they were at and where we were at, and we kind of figured these would be the conditions. So we're okay with the conditions so far.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? All right, I don't see anything. Thanks a lot for coming up.
All right, thank you.
All right, it's a public hearing, but I'm not seeing anybody else in the audience, so we'd just be looking for a motion. Craig?
I'll move approval with staff recommendations.
Okay, we got a motion. Dina with the second. Any discussion? And let's call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, congratulations, good luck.
Thank you.
That takes us to the end of our items. Code compliance items? Oh, none. Future agenda items, anybody? Additions or corrections to the minutes? I guess that takes us to the end. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. A transcript of this meeting is available for the hearing impaired. It will be available within 7 days of this telecast. Call 715-839-4912 or TDD 715-839-1689 or write Eau Claire City Clerk, P.O. Box 5148, Eau Claire, Wisconsin 54702-5148. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.